This week, I'm continuing the Humans of Romi Hills Mystery Knit Along 2023 series. I invited 3 different knitters to share their thoughts on clue number 3. I hope you enjoy meeting them. I'm so glad that you agreed to do this thing. I was like, I was trying to convince all the people to participate in it. So when I saw your email, I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah, I said that was a really hard time because I do my final dissertation. This is my last semester in the university. And that time I was really busy. But now I can see the finish of the university studies. So I had the time for it.
So you're studying electrical engineering? No,
I studied. I already have the degree in electrical engineering, and I started last year, or this is my second year in the university, economics, business and leadership, because I don't wanted to study more physics and mathematics, so it was a lot in the engineering skills. So yeah, I started an economics major.
It's funny because I did the same thing. I had the electrical engineering degree and then I went on
Really?
MKA,
Wow.
finance. So we have a lot in common, apparently.
Yeah.
But you haven't been knitting all your life. You just learned to knit like a year and a half ago?
I think I started to learn knitting in 2021, around in September or October. As I mentioned in my email, that my very first knitting project was the Westknits MKAL21.
You understand this is not like regular, right? Like regular people start with like little square sample. You jump into the mystery knit along of Westknit.
I did small squares, but I did it in Hungarian. So my very first English pattern was the shallography, and it was really excited. But I think it's easy to follow because Steven did so amazing videos for it, as Romi did right now. Do it right now.
Right. So, well, tell me about like what made you decide to join this mystery knit along.
Last year with the Westknits MKAL, a bunch of Hungarian knitters, we organize Facebook events and we communicate, we do it together, and it was so much fun. First, I don't want to join this Romi MKAL, but one of my friends convinced me, so I joined because it was so much fun to knit it together, show how we made, which colors we choose, and it's always fun to knit together. So because this experience, I wanted to join this MKAL, mystery MKAL again. So
do you like the mystery part of it?
Yeah, and I can say this is the first knit along when I don't spoil myself. So I only look for the charts, and I don't look the spoilers in the group chats or everywhere.
Right. And what did you think about the clues that you already finished?
I really like it. I thought it was a bit more lacy, but I use a single strand yarn, so it make a bit bulky, or it's not that drapey like with a fingering like this shawl. Yeah. I like it so far. So I don't know what can I say about the clue 3 because I just finished the first chart in it, and it's kind of the reverse of the clue 2.
Were you surprised by that it's like it's a mirror image of clue 2? Did you expect something completely different?
Well, I was expecting a little bit of this, so with a reverse image, but I was thinking that we will use the C1 and after that the C2 with another lacy pattern. That I like this blocking part of the shawl, so I'm really happy with it. I like it. It will be a more lacy pattern, but I like it, and I'm really excited about how will it finished, because if I remember right, we will only use the C2 in the upcoming clues. So I'm looking forward.
What's your prediction from the engineering point of view? What do you think is going to be the structure of the shawl like in the next clue?
Well, I don't really know Romi's design because this is the very first pattern that I'm knitting from her. But I checked her Ravelry and I saw that a lot of chevrons, and I'm expected that the finishing of the shawl will be a chevron like or the last year or the cathedral shawl, if I remember right the name of it. I'm expected a kind of that shawl, that finishing.
Right. Tell me about the yarn you chose for this project.
Well, I chose a single strand yarn from a Hungarian yarn dyer, and it's because I was thinking about this is my first Romi MKAL shawl, and then this will be the first time when I use a single strand yarn. So this is a totally new experience for me with working a single strand yarn, but I really like it. Maybe I can show it.
Yeah, please. Spoiler alert.
Yes, spoiler. I choose this C1 for the brown and this mossy green. I don't know how can you see in the camera. And it's not that contrasty, but I like this mossy, earthy look. So yeah, I just finished the first chart here.
I like that actually. It's like it's very subtle, but like you can definitely see it, you know, it's like enough contrast that you see it.
Little Christmas tree with all the stitch markers to keep in track.
Well, do you find the stitch markers helping, or like in this amount of stitch markers, are they distracting you?
It's helping me. It's for me essential. So I can't knit without it because I think I don't have too much experience knitting lace patterns with charts. Right. So it repeats really help to keep in the stitch markers, and I can count every 10 stitches I made already. So it's a big help.
Well, do you use chart for this pattern, or do you use written instructions?
When I started the first clue, I read the written pattern, but after that it was so complicated to follow for me, and I switched to the charts. So this is I think the second time when I knit from a chart, and I can say it's really easy to follow. So memorizable the pattern, what we should repeat in each section. So it's really easy to follow.
Are there any new techniques that you learn, or any new things that you didn't know?
The cast on was really new for me in the first clue. That was the very first time whenever I did it. Other than that, I don't think so. Maybe the knit front and back, but in the back loop. That was the other new thing for me. But the others it's already did.
So besides knitting, I mean, knitting is like one thing you do, but you jumped into like every kind of fiber arts on the planet.
Yeah, it came by one by one. So I think the very first thing what I was start to learn is knitting, because I found I think a 5mm needle in my drawer. So I started to knit. Then I see the amigurumis, the little figure which crocheted. So I started to learn crochet. Then it comes to, I see the spinning. So I have own spinned yarn here and a lot of wool up there. So I started to spin wools, and after that I start to sew, because with this other project I need project bags and I want to make by myself. So I started to make project bags on my own.
And I've heard you also dabble in embroidery as well.
Yeah, I just started to embroidery, but it's really the beginning phase, because I just learned the basic stitches and I didn't do anything else than some backstitch, or I don't know how to say it in English, because I started in Hungarian and I know the Hungarian terminology for it, but I think in English there's a lot of resources to learn. And if someone says I should knit in Hungarian, I will be in a big trouble because I only know the English terminology for knitting.
Right. Well, do you think like at one point you're gonna be totally self-sufficient, like spinning your own wool, knitting it yourself, dyeing it yourself, putting it in your own project bags? Like, what's your...
I already tried dyeing yarns as well. I really like it. It takes a lot of time to practice and do it. And with university right now, I don't have much free time. But after I get my diploma, I think I will have more time to practice yarn dyeing and spinning more wool. So yeah, I really like to do it. It's like a meditation for me, knitting and spinning wool.
I mean, do you think like it balances you out with all the like stress of studying and all the scientific things you need to think about?
Yeah, after I'm writing a lot of essays, I just pick up my sock knitting because there's the little projects that I can make in a busy exams period. So only sock knitting was in my last few months, and I just started with this shawl make along, the Romi pattern.
Well, if people sitting on the sidelines and they thinking, well, I don't know if I ready for this mystery knit along, I don't know if I'm good enough to knit lace, I don't know if that sort of project is for me, what would be your advice?
Just jump in it. So it's I have a few Hungarian friends who was really afraid of this pattern, especially because they knit only in Hungarian. But this community is really supportive and they help. So we translated into Hungarian the charts so they can follow it, and they made beautiful shawls already. And this is the first pattern for them too. So just do it.
So how are you enjoying this mystery knit along?
Oh, it's really fun. I've never done a mystery knit along before. So
well, tell me like what made you decide to join this mystery knit along?
Well, I follow Romi on social media, and she posted quite a bit about it, and it kind of gave me the itch to join. And I looked at the Ravelry group, and everybody was talking about it, and so I thought, well, I'll try it because I trust Romi. There's not a lot of designers that I would trust because I'm kind of a control freak. I have to see what I'm knitting before I start. But I trust Romi to design something that I'll like. So I decided to jump in and go with it.
Well, when you were making that decision, did you have like what hesitations did you have to join, and what tipped that point over?
I like Romi's designs. I like all of her designs. So that was not a worry for me. And the hesitation that I have is that I'm never good at keeping up with any kind of knit alongs. I'm always off to the side doing my own thing. That is never the right time for me to join because I'm a monogamous knitter mostly. Right. So I had to stop knitting the sweater that I was working on and knit on this, which is fine, but I'm not used to doing that. So,
well, I mean, I used to be a monogamous knitter up until last October when I teamed up with another YouTuber, Martin from Knit 365 on Mystery Knit Along Festival in West. And he's the guy that has 18 whips, 20 whips, like some unreal amount that like I'm stressed on his behalf every time I hear it, right? And somehow us working together and spending time together rubbed off of me, and now I'm like knitting 4 different designs at the same time. But I found that like beautiful for this specific mystery knit along because it's not a lot of knitting in each clue. It's not overwhelming amount.
Yeah.
So I'm actually like capable of doing that and working on the other projects as well. How do you find it? Like, are you able to still knit on your sweater in between the clues?
Right now I'm at the point in the sweater where it's got a lot of short rows, so I didn't want to dip in and out of that and lose track of what I was doing. So I am able to keep up. I'm not quite finished with clue 3 yet, but I'll get there before Friday.
Right.
But I'm able to keep up. But when I get done with a clue, then I usually work on a sock because I always have a sock going. I don't count that in my monogamous knitting. There's always a
side
sock
project.
Yeah.
How did you find the fact that this third clue is a mirror image of the second clue? Did you like it, or were you hoping for something entirely different?
I like it. I think it looks really nice. Romy is always so good at her patterns are so organic that from the very start till the very end, it feels like the pattern grows organically and naturally. And I love that about her lace, because not all designers do that. Right. So I really like the way that it looks. I think the mirrored image is going to be really pretty in the entire shawl when it's finished.
Do you have any predictions about where we're going in clue number 4?
Oh my. Well, I know that we're done with color 1, so I can stop worrying if I have enough. But not really. I think probably some more lace and maybe a few cables, but I know it'll be beautiful. So
I felt like a little sad when I read that we're done with color 1, and I was like, really? Like nothing in clue 4? Like I sort of had this picture that like, okay, we did like color 1 and clue 1, and then the mix in the second and the mix in the third, and it's going to be like a little bit more mix but heavier on color 2 and the fourth. So I was surprised and sort of saddened to see it going, and now I'm like, am I gonna love it? Am I gonna hate it? Do I wish color 1 stayed in clue 4? So it's like I don't know. Like I'm on the bench still about how it's gonna look. But I must tell you, like every time I'm knitting a clue, and I'm like, I don't know, because this is my first time participating in Mystery Knit Along as well for Romy. So I completely don't know how she breaks it, right? And every time I'm thinking, am I gonna love it? Am I gonna hate it? I'm coming to the end of the clue and I love it. So
yeah, she's a reliable designer when it comes to loving things.
Tell me about the shawl that you're wearing right now.
This is the first Romy shawl that I ever knitted back in 2015. It's Fiore de Sol. I think I'm saying that right. It's one of her earlier, I think it's a pins and lace pattern. I love her pins and lace clubs. I don't usually keep up with them during the year when she lets the patterns out, but right. I do knit them later on my own. So this is the very first one of hers that I knitted. I worked up to the point where I thought I was capable of knitting one of her designs because they looked so beautiful and lacy, and I wasn't confident. But after I knitted it, I realized that she makes it easier than it looks.
No, she's an excellent instructor. Like the way she teaches you how to do it and shows everything in her like mini videos, it makes it so accessible for everyone, for like any level.
Yeah, her live videos on Friday afternoons, they're amazing. I know when I first saw Clue 2, because I've never knitted 2-color shawl before, I first saw Clue 2 and I thought, oh no, what have I done? This is too hard. I can't do it. And then I watched her live and I'm like, oh, well, I could do that. So her videos make it so easy to follow along and do what she wants. I mean, there's tricky things every once in a while, and she definitely sweats the small stuff. She makes the fine details with, like, her knit front and back is actually knit back and front, and the tiny details that other designers don't necessarily worry about, she makes them extra beautiful. So I'm always impressed by her that way.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I'm actually like, that's it. From now on, this is how I'm doing my knit front back. It's going from the back to the front. I mean, it makes all the sense, but like, I never even thought about it. And I knit lace all the time. But like, when you see the difference and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. There is no pearl bump here. Like, why didn't I think about it before? You know? Yeah, so she does pay a lot of attention to the small details, how to make it like absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Well, what made you decide to join the Humans of Romi Hill series?
Well, mostly that I knew it would help Romi. You know, the having the video series is you've said before, it's a way to help the designer get the word out and encourage more people to join in the knit along, and encourage more people to knit their patterns and get involved. And so I thought, well, I can do that. I can manage to talk for a few minutes.
No, I'm very glad that you did, because a lot of people are hesitant about joining knit along or even buying lace pattern, right? They're thinking, well, I don't know, lace must be so difficult. It looks so intricate. It's probably like I have to pay so much attention. I don't know if I have it in my, you know, in my head, like to concentrate on that. And when they hear people like you and I talking about how it's very easy, how Romi explains every detail, how fun it is, they join, they buy the pattern. So it does help the designer. Like, even if it's not for this year, people, like I had so many people telling me, oh, I didn't join it this year, but now that I saw it, I'm definitely joining next year. And that's the goal of this series, to show that it's for everyone, for every kind of level. Have you met any new friends during that knit along?
Oh yeah, I've never been too involved with the Ravelry forum for Romi's designs. I've posted a few times in there, like when I have finished a design, I've sometimes posted a picture, but I'm really following along with all of the clues and reading everybody's posts and getting to know people, and watching your videos and getting to know people, and the Zooms on Saturday afternoon and seeing the same faces over and over. It's really nice. I'm sort of getting to the point where I recognize people as, you know, more than just their avatar.
Right. Is this shawl gonna be just for you, or are you thinking of gifting it to somebody?
I haven't decided yet. We have every holiday season, my work does a what's the word I'm looking for?
A gift exchange?
Well, not a gift exchange exactly, but an auction. That's the word I was looking for. And I was thinking about putting that in the auction, because so many of my coworkers are like, oh, you're knitting so beautiful, you should sell your knitting. And my response is, like everybody else, yeah, right. But I think maybe if I put it into the auction, that maybe somebody will, it's for a good cause, it's for United Way, and so maybe somebody would bid on it and take it home and love it. And if I can give it up, I don't know if I can give it up.
Well, you can always make another one. That's the beauty of being a knitter. You can always make another one.
This is true.
Tell me about your yarn choices. How did you decide on what kind of yarn to use and what colors?
Well, the yarn choices, I was had to knit from stash, so that narrowed it down quite a bit, although I would have loved to have gone out and purchase some things from Verb or another dyer, but I just looked in my Ravelry list of all the yarns that I had that were fingering weight, and I found these two Cascade Heritage colors that go together. So I was like, well, that's it. That'll work. So
Are you happy with them?
yeah, I am. I think they look pretty good together.
Can we see?
Yeah. It's all bunched up on the needles.
I love that. You know what surprises me? Like I've seen already so many shawls that everybody is knitting, and I haven't met one that I haven't liked yet. They're all so beautiful. Like I love all the combinations.
Yeah, yours is beautiful too. I've seen it a few times. So yours is really turning out nicely.
Yeah, I'm very happy with how it looks. Have you ever done this mystery knit along before?
I years ago did a bunch of mystery knit alongs, lace shawls, but never with Romi. But I've always loved her designs and taken classes with her that I really enjoyed. So when I saw this was happening, I found out about it late. So I like came in a week late and had to catch up. I find her delightful, and I just think her patterns are beautiful. So I thought I'd try it.
Well, did you have any trouble catching up?
I did, like a lot of people did. I kind of missed that bind off page where it's like, okay, we're done. Why does it say bind off? Oh, that must be out of order or something. When I figured it out by actually going back and watching the YouTube from the one that I missed. I started it. I decided I didn't like the yarn I was using, so I ripped it out and I started it again. And then I messed up on the bind off thing, and then I caught up. I caught up in time for the second clip.
Well, tell me about your yarn selection. What did you first started and what did you decide to do now?
Again, I'm like just arrived at a place that I haven't been for 4 months. So I looked to see what I could grab. During the lockdown, I did a lot of online Zooming and shopping and trying to support especially indie dyers. And I had gotten some yarn from an outfit called Molly Girl Yarns. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. And I had 3 yarns, and one of them was just super, super variegated. And then the other 2 I thought were too close in color, but then the way I haven't blocked it at all. The way her pattern works, I think I love the way it came out. So
I actually do love it as well.
And it just, it's just like a subtle accent instead of a strong contrast. I will confess, I think of myself as an experienced lace knitter, but I had a 4-hour train ride back to New York City, and I thought, I'm going to finish clue 3, and I'm knitting and knitting and knitting. And then I ended up having to rip out 7 rows and go back again. My mother used to always tell me, admire your work often, which meant look at it and catch the mistake before you get too far. I didn't look at it, and all of a sudden there was this really weird thing going on in the middle. So it is challenging enough for an experienced knitter. But then once you get rolling, I can, it moves along.
Right. And what I like about it also, like this is my second mystery knit along in general. Like I only done one other by another designer. And I find the tempo of it is like very relaxing. So if you kind of person that enjoys knitting multiple projects, this is definitely amazing. And also if you're coming late into the mystery knit along, it's easy to catch up because it's not overwhelming amount of knitting for each clue.
And the ability to go back and look at the previous YouTubes, it's like you can catch up just because it's all right there. You didn't really miss anything.
Right. Do you find, was there any difficulty at all, like for you, besides not reading every word of the pattern?
Yeah, I got some new needles and the points kept popping off. Nothing about the pattern that I think was particularly difficult. Since I don't have a color printer up here, I decided to work from the written instructions instead of the chart. I just use the chart as reference for, where there should be number of stitches. And the way the written instructions are typed out, I would suggest, make a suggestion to Romy to make it easier to read, but it's really not my place to tell her how to write. But where it would say knit through back loop, but the line would break after the K and before the TBL. And it was hard for me to always connect that. So I almost wish that it just said KTBL all in one thing, and that would be easier to read it that way. Small complaint. No, I think it's quite easy to follow. And it's easy to read. Like I'm looking down at it, and I can see what's happening. So kind of makes it easier to go on to the next step because you know what it's connected to.
Well, when you saw the third clue, was that like meeting an old friend? Were you glad that it was a mirror image, or were you disappointed that it was a mirror image?
I found it a little different, but easy. It's like it was a little different, but once it got started, it was just easy to roll with it. I like that the same thing would repeat over and over, like 1 stitch over or 4 stitches over. So you're knitting the same thing all the time, but just in a different place. And I enjoy the rhythm of that. So you could it's not so difficult that I could watch TV or listen to an audiobook or something.
Right. What are your thoughts about the fourth clue? What do you think is coming our way on the fourth clue?
Gosh. Well, if I understand correctly, we're through with the first color.
That's what I'm getting from it. Yeah.
So because of the name, because of the folderol, which I think is such a beautiful word, I envision something frilly or roughly, or I definitely see not just a straight line. That's what I'm guessing. What are you thinking?
I have no idea. She surprises me with every clue because I was trying to predict something and I was like totally off. So I'm afraid to even think about what's coming now. And I was very surprised that we don't have the first color in the fourth clue. Because I was concerned there was like so much of the first color in the first 3 clues, right? That I was concerned that I'm going to run out because I'm notoriously a very loose knitter. And I had the skein that had 380 meters per 100 grams.
Oh, so you're really...
So like I was like thinking that I'm on the edge, but then I had like a decent amount of yarn still left, right? So I was surprised when I read that sentence. I was like, am I reading that right? Like, are you sure that I'm not going to need more? So
yeah, of course, now I'm going to worry that I don't have enough of color too. I don't know. I was surprised when second color was introduced at how that kind of geometric pattern worked. Oh, my earphones are acting funny. How that kind of geometric pattern worked in. I wasn't expecting that at all. So yeah, I guess I'm prepared to be surprised by clue 4. I want ruffles or the pointy things. She does wonderful pointy things in her patterns. I'm sure there's some more.
I mean, I was very surprised at the second clue. Like, I did not see that coming at all. Like, I thought it's going to be, because like, I'm thinking like the first one was such a like plain lace. And I thought it's just going to continue with like growing. Like, I didn't see that triangle being inverted. I didn't see the cable coming in.
I was sure I was doing that wrong. It's like, I think I must have done this upside down, or I actually went and looked at the YouTube because I had to prove that I hadn't done it wrong. That triangle flip really threw me.
Well, are you learning any new techniques, or are you learning any new like ways of doing something in this Mystery Knit Along?
Am I learning any new techniques? Well, some of the things that Romy says, this is the way I do slip knit, or this is the way I do the knit front back. There's always a little something that can improve what you're already doing. I mean, I'm an old lady and I've been knitting my whole life. So I don't know that I can break many habits or make many new ones, but I think there are a couple of things that she does that I will adopt in future knitting.
How do you find this whole like social aspect of Mystery Knit Along?
Knitting was always my first craft. I mean, all the women in my family, my mother says she didn't teach me to knit, we just all knit. And I do a lot of other things now, but knitting is like coming home. And I kind of missed having that group because I always had people that I knit with, and all of my knitters have grown on to do other things now, as have I. And I realized when I do the Verb for Keeping Warm meetups, I really love that sense of community, and I missed that. And I don't know, I just feel really warm and fuzzy about having that. Even if we don't talk about the pattern or the shawl, it's you're with your tribe, you're with your people. And I enjoy that. And also our host is lovely, and Romi just so sweet and welcoming. I don't know her. I mean, like I said, I've taken classes with her. I'm sure she doesn't remember me, but I just feel like a welcome friend. Right.
Well, do you love the mystery, or do you not a fan of mystery?
I'm like, if I'm binge watching something on Netflix, sometimes I'll go through and look at the episode guides kind of to get a sneak peek of what's coming up. So part of me, I appreciate not being allowed to do that, because I'll cheat, I'll look ahead, and I'm not patient. Yeah, and it's just right. Like I just finished the third clue last night. Because I had 2 4-hour train rides, I had an unusual amount of time to just knit. And now I wish it was Friday, because I can't wait to see what's next. But yeah, I enjoy the mystery. I think I did 3 in the past. They were all lace. And they were all beautiful. I was really happy with the way they turned out. So I assume this will be beautiful too.
I mean, are you like already like know that you're definitely joining next year?
Probably. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. I think there's certain people that you just, when they do something, you just want to do it. And like I said, I just find Romi so delightful. I just recently bought a ton of her patterns because I have some gorgeous lace weight yarn that's been burning a hole in my brain. I was looking for a project for it, and I was just about to start one of her shawls when I learned about this. So I will definitely be knitting Romi shawls. I see no reason why I wouldn't do this again. I enjoy it. I would like to be better prepared with my yarn next time and not have to just, this might work, I'll try that. But that's part of the mystery too.
I want to thank all of you who participated in this series. I love meeting every one of you and hearing your story and your thoughts about this year's Mystery Knit Along. If you enjoy watching this program, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. I hope to see you soon. Happy crafting.